Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Welcome to this conversation with the visual effects team of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. This extraordinary team has been nominated for an Academy Award, BAFTA, multiple VES awards, and the point of today's conversation is to acquaint you with this extraordinary team, to dive a little deeper into what it takes to create a masterpiece of visual splendor like the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. And so let's just get right into it. I'll do some introductions here. First, we've got a wonderful man that I've worked with for a long time, Stefan Soretti.
Hi, Chris.
Yeah, hello. Nice
Good
to
to
see
see
you.
you. Yeah.
We've got Theo Bialik there. I don't know if hello Theo. I
Right.
don't know if everyone's screen looks exactly like my screen, but I'll go in order here. We got Guy Williams. Say hello
Hey.
to Mr. Guy Williams. And finally, we've got Alexis Wajsbrot. How are you, Alexi?
Well,
Very good, very good. Nice
Uh,
to meet you.
Nice to meet you and now and make your acquaintance. I know you've seen a lot of my face and the face of all of our characters over the years, but it's nice to be here uh, with you. So thank you so much for being here. I'm really proud of this team. You've done such extraordinary work. You deserve the accolades, and I'm looking forward to helping other people understand just what an accomplishment it was, the visual effects you pulled off in our film. So I'll jump right into it. Congratulations on the nomination. It's incredible. How do you feel? Stefan, let's start with you.
yeah, I mean, I feel good. I feel good. It's we've worked really hard all together and with all the teams everywhere in the world because all our friends are everywhere in the world, really. I mean, we have Alex in London, Guy in New Zealand, and Theo's in LA, and we had people in Montreal and everything. So I feel really proud and for the team really because it's a big team effort. There's hundreds of people that have worked on the film to achieve everything, and I'm also, glad that the movie's getting that recognition, and for James as well, and for all the team on set. That it's super exciting.
That's fantastic. Yeah, I mean, this is an academy. Is it how many have you been nominated for Academy Awards before?
Yeah, I mean, actually, we were nominated on the first one,
Oh,
for
yeah,
the first Guardians, and I got a nomination for Doctor Strange as well. So it's my third time.
that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Now, yeah, that's right. You were on the first. We've been working together for a
Yeah,
really
10
long time.
years.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
how about that?
It's a long time.
How did you originally get involved with the Guardians?
I was it was fun. It's funny because I was in London at the time, and we shot the first film in London. And I was working already for Marvel as a more like a second unit supervisor. And one day one day there was one of the execs at the studio came to see me and said, Steph, I think we're gonna give you a film, and but it's not our usual thing. It's like, and I said, okay, yeah, I didn't know what to expect. And I said, the film was like a raccoon and a tree man, and it's happening in in space, and it's gonna be with that director called James Gunn. And I was like, okay, that sounds different. uh I remember I was on the Soho Square in London, and we were just chatting, and then I said, yeah, that sounds like something I'd love to do, actually. So I liked it because it was different, you know the old setup was different, and the old story was different. I remember in London, and when you came for your auditions and all that stuff, before you even did your workout, and
Oh my
it was
God.
early days, and we did that test filming as well with all the crew, and Sean Gunn was being Rocket, and we did a bit of testing to figure out how we could get that, you guys acting with these digital characters, really. And
Yeah, that's I
yeah.
remember some of the early test footage on the very first Guardians film. Uh, we'd only been shooting for about 10
Hmm.
days,
Yeah.
and then we went to Comic-Con, and they
Yes.
took some of the test footage,
Yeah.
and this just is a testament to how much of a character the visual effects has been in
Right.
all three iterations of this film. Is that test footage won over an audience before we even had a movie, before we even
Yeah.
any of us really knew what the heck we were doing?
Yeah.
The audience knew they loved what they saw. They loved
Yeah.
the test footage. They loved these characters, and so that's
Yeah.
really
I
incredible.
remember when you came back from the first Comic-Con, everybody was so pumped up about it because the reaction was crazy.
It was crazy. People were, I mean, because you're right. Back then, everyone looked at like tree guy, raccoon, space.
Mhm.
This thing's going to be a disaster.
Yes.
And wow, their expectations were very low, and
Yeah.
it was not difficult to surpass them on the first movie. And then the second and third movie, the expectations were very high,
Yes.
and still
Yes.
somehow you guys and were able to surpass them. So for those of you out there who are watching this and you might not know, could you guys just explain the difference between each of your roles briefly? Like what part of the films each of you worked on? Theo, do you want to start?
Yeah, I'm a VFX supervisor for Sony Pictures ImageWorks, and they split up the work on the shows where it makes sense. So they try to give individual sequences to different vendors so that you can be efficient when you're working. But there's a lot of shared assets, so we're always sharing characters like the raccoon between the facilities. But most of the work that ImageWorks did focused on the Orgoscope space station.
Okay.
And we did a lot of other sequences. I think 13 sequences in the film, about 640 shots. So it's spread across the film, but a lot of the space station and then the Bowie, when Gamora crashes the Bowie into the counter Earth, kind of running away from the ship, that type of thing. So and a bunch of War Pig shots. So a pretty good mix of things, but that was the specialty.
Wow. Okay, great. And Guy, how about you?
As Theo said, we're all VFX soups for various companies. I'm the representative for Weta. One thing to build upon what Theo said, though, was that not only do we share assets, we often share artists over time. So, the industry has this really cool thing where we're very tight-knit with each other. We all know each other through various channels. So it's really easy when a show like this comes along and you put all these teams together that we all can work together really well. Weta was responsible for, oh heck, a lot of the stuff at Counter Earth, everything you see with the giant red spaceship called the Arete. Yeah, we also did, I should have prepared for this, I'm sorry. We also did the obelisk pit with the big obelisk. We did the space battle around the Arete, the battle in Nowhere, the battle inside of Arete, and then the destruction of Arete, and we also did that big long one-er shot.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah.
Iconic.
Yes.
And I see.
So I was the visual effects supervisor for Framestore. So it's based in London, but we had offices in Montreal and Vancouver as well working on it. Mainly the sequences we were involved are around the characters. So Rocket, Lila, Tiff's, Fleur, all the flashback sequences. Actually, we were already involved on Guardians 1, building the first Rocket Raccoon. And so now we brought it back and tried to do reverse the age of Rocket and see what he looked like as a baby and as an adolescent and then as an adult. So we worked on all of these sequences, and it was just amazing because you guys shot on the first week these sequences. So we received them at Framestore very early on. You were still shooting in Atlanta. We received the sequences and we were like, wow, it's amazing. The actors brought so much to it. Like the sequences just with people in a gray environment with mocap suit, it was already so powerful and so much emotion. Like some of us were already crying just seeing that. We were all like we were already really excited because Guardians 1 was such a great movie, and everyone is a big fan of Rocket at Framestore, and we have posters of Rocket all over the building here. And so I think we were all very excited, and I think working on this sequence meant a lot to us. So I think we tried to embrace the performance that all of you guys did on set to do that. We did sequences as well with you, Chris. Actually,
Yeah.
When Rocket is on the hospital bed, and you decided to take the cable and stroke him and then hug him, and so we had to roto you, body track you, make sure that you still interact with the fur. So we spent hours and hours looking at you, Chris, to
I
do
remember
all of these interactions.
Yeah, I remember on that day, Chris, you were. You remember we usually were using the stuffy, that's that little kind of, and we have those gray ones that have no fur and nothing.
Yes.
And then I remember you coming to see me and saying, "Can I use the real one with the fur and the eyes and you know everything that," because you wanted to relate to him so much at that moment. And I think I mean, that's one of your most powerful performance, in my opinion. I mean, I love that moment in the film. It's so intense and so good. And I remember, you know, being with James and we were like, oh my God. But you had, you know, you wanted to get the stuff
Right.
here and use that, which makes it much more complicated for us in a way. But also that's the thing. It's like technically it's more complicated, but because your performance is so good and you know it adds to everything. For us, we rely so much on the performance of the actors because you sell the illusion on set for us.
Mhm.
So it's that feedback loop between what we do and what you do that is so important, and then you give us so much with your acting and the reality of how you feel about these characters. That it's for the animators at Framestore, or for you know for the guys doing the oneer where you were really involved in the stunts and all that stuff. It sells everything, and it makes our work actually not easier because it's really hard, but it just makes it more accomplished in the end, you know. So it's important.
I remember that moment. I
Yeah.
remember asking if I could work with the real fur rocket because I was trying to create this, you know,
Yes.
having a real, and that is a special moment in the film. It made it in the trailer. I'm really proud of that. And I got as a testament to you and to your like unwavering patience and calm. Never in that moment did I ever feel like I was asking something that would make your life 10 times more difficult. You
Yeah.
just let me do it. And
Yeah.
that's really generous as a collaborator because you could say, no, man, listen, just you act, you know,
Yeah.
act with the thing. It's going to be way more expensive, way more difficult for me and for my whole team. But that wasn't even that. You just did
No.
nothing to like sort of muddy the waters and allowed me to be there and be present and without being, you know, self-conscious, like, oh man, am I
Exactly.
voice here? That's really a testament to you. And that's the kind of sacrifice that's, you
Yeah.
know, ultimately it makes it onto screen. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah,
That's
because we get so much back out of your performance that I would try to never do something that takes you away from that very important moment.
right.
And it's fundamental to me that when we have CG character interacting with actors, that we get the most out of you, you know, because
And,
that's where we succeed.
and actually, to bounce back on what Steph says, I know I was making a joke that it was it was a challenge to achieve, but I completely second what Steph says. I think it's actually a lot harder when the performance of the actors around are not good and they don't believe in it. It
Mhm.
makes our job much harder than when the performance is good and we believe that you are actually feeling for Rocket Raccoon at that stage. And
Yeah.
so I actually, in some way, it makes it actually easier because there is a lot less notes because everyone, the test screening, the audience screening, James Gunn, everyone believes in it way quicker. So it actually, the performance is everything. And same for Lila, Tiff, and Floor, and of course Rocket played by Sean Gunn and Bradley. I think we are using so much of their performance, and it's really a mix with their performance,
Mm.
the real Rocket, and all of that balancing. But all of that, we are trying to embrace what the actors do and try to catch the emotion that you have. And I think if we didn't have great performances, our job would be almost impossible.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, when you talk about the flashbacks, if we can, Alexi, um, you were talking about these performances between these actors, and they are, I mean, to the lay person, what's happening is these actors are wearing these gray suits with like strange polka dots. I believe they may have motion capture dots all over
Yeah.
their faces, cameras on their faces. They're in these rigs that are very strange and from the point of view of a performer when you're on screen knowing that a lot of what you're doing will make it into the character but ultimately nothing that you're that you know none of you other than your voice and this animation that's based on your likeness will make it into the end so that's really important to get that performance out of these actors who did such a great job with those flashbacks. I mean, truly, I remember early on James saying in the very first movie, if we don't believe that Rocket is a real being, that
Yeah.
evokes a feeling that we're empathetic towards, then this entire movie, it'll flop. It won't work. If it's Donald Duck and no one gives a shit, then it's not going to work. And
Yeah.
you guys made him a very real living character. So if you don't mind, like, I know I want to get through all of this, but explain to the lay people, to me and to the people watching this, what does that entail? How do you take raw footage of a person performing and turn it into Teefs or Baby Rocket or Lila or any of these other characters?
Well, so first you shot the performance, and as you said, people were wearing a mocap suit, and we were recording the camera. The only thing we really took from the mocap stage is the camera. We recorded the camera because weirdly enough, to animate in visual effects, a camera is actually really hard to get the weight and the inertia of what a camera move would do. So because most of the shots were full CG, full visual effects, we really wanted to ground it into something real. So we took the camera from James. So already that was great. Then second, the performance of the actors. So this, well, we not only study it, but as you said, we are using the voices and we try to, okay, what does it mean for Rocket to be like Sean Gunn? What is it in the performance of Sean that we really want to put back? And so it's a lot of hours of dissecting your performance, studying it, trying to get what is it that you were trying to say? And then we have a huge number of really talented animators all over the world taking that, animating it, but all the time, Steph, myself, James would always look at the animation, but side by side, we will have the performance of the actors and trying to see, did we manage to convey the same emotion? Then, of course, there is the design of the character that plays a lot because they are quite, with these implants, quite horrific. So we wanted to bring the cuteness. So Steph and I spent hours and hours on the web trying to find an author that could be Lila. Which author is cute enough to be Lila? Because, well, she needed to be cute because she had implants. The lighting was very harsh. You had in this horrific environment. So I think it's a mixture of animation, then the look dev of the asset, finding the cuteness in her, then of course the voices, and then lighting. I think lighting was really important for me. I focused a lot on the eyes. So basically the lighting of the eyes was key on the show. Like every shot there is, a DOP would do the same. So, and visual effects is exactly the same as making a movie. We just make the movie in the computer, but we have modeler doing the production design work. We have DOP lead lighting to light the shot. So it's very similar. So here I was spending ages to get just the ping in the eyes, the right level, what we call the meniscus, the little bit of water bottom of the eye, just because, it's a per shot thing. Like, do we need more? Do we need less? Especially because Rocket had such a ride of emotion. We just needed to be really good per shot. And because we are all passionate and we, like, personally, you ask why did we come on this movie? I loved Guardians 1. It was my favorite Marvel movie. So I think, and we loved Rocket at Framestore. So really, we spent a lot of love trying to make sure that we are conveying the emotion to the audience. And I think our biggest reward is when people watch the sequence with the CG character in CG environment and they believe in it. And like you said, I think Steph tells me a lot of time, it can't be Bugs Bunny. So you need to make your animation subtle. It can't be Donald Duck. So and we know that these animals actually are emoting a lot less than a human. So it was always finding that right amount to convey the emotion, but without being exaggerated. So we didn't want to be a Pixar
real
movie,
balancing. Yeah, it is a real balancing act because translating a performance from a human to a raccoon or an otter, it takes a lot of trial and error and working it for hours, and that's what these guys did. And but I just want to, in a world where everybody's afraid of, we're going to be replaced by AI and acting and all that stuff, there is nowhere in the world where we can do this level of acting and performance and the quality of the emotion we're getting out without the actors. Like, that doesn't exist. We could not invent this without the acting that the guys gave us. That just doesn't happen. So I think it's very important that we say all together that this is a collaboration between many different artists, and that could not happen otherwise. And to me, that's very fundamental to everything we've done. From the first film, it was like, we're not going to do motion capture because we're going to do animation, because this is an artistic process. It's not a technical process. And it's very important for me that we emphasize that, because there's so much artistry that comes from the, from everybody, from you guys, the actors, from the camera crew, from the lighting, from, the sound guys, and from all the animators and the people doing the work in post. It's a chain of artists that work together hand in hand to get the result that we have on screen at the end.
So like, what's that process like for collaborating? I mean, like, you've got all these different departments, and you're all doing the stuff that you're doing. But there's obviously like a cohesion and a homogeny between each of these outcomes. And so is that go mostly through you, Steph? Is that mostly
it's me and James? I mean, we talk to everybody every day. I mean, I talk to everybody every day, pretty much. James it's more like a couple of times a week or something like that. But we constantly talk about everything. Like, there's nothing left for complete randomness. Everything is very, very well designed. And James is extremely. It's interesting to see how James is directing you guys on set, and how he actually carries on doing this in post with our friends here. It's the same person, and he's gonna give the same type of notes. We're gonna look at some animation, and it's gonna be like he does sometimes in the middle of a take, and he talks to you guys, and then he bounces off that and everything. It's the same process. It's really a continuous thing.
So in terms, you guys obviously spent a ton of time working, alongside James now for 10 years.
Yeah.
That collaboration process with him, he's very involved in making those decisions.
Very.
Do you have a shorthand to where you feel like you can understand what he means without him saying it? Or do you find yourselves at times at odds with him ever? Are you ever like, are you ever disagreeing with him in certain things?
Oh, we disagree all the time. No, no, we have discussions about things, but we have a shorthand. Like, I mean, I think, after all that time, there's a certain trust that happens, and it's also a very cohesive team. Like, Fred, the editor, has been with us since the first film. So all these, we're all around him, and we've been around, on and off, but so we have a good shorthand. But sometimes there's things that I will not understand, because only James can understand these things. So, for example, like the oneer that these guys at Weta have done, it's a very complicated scene, and there's a lot of blocking of the action, what you guys shot and everything. And then I had pretty much Guy and his team on the phone every week for 1 hour just to go through that oneer. Every week, right? I mean, we're doing that, Guy. And with James, because it's fundamentally directing everything that's going on in the frame. So at that point, I'm just like, well, we're just gonna talk with James directly. You don't need me. I mean, I'm here to, give ideas, and these guys are here to give ideas. Very collaborative process. Because James has very set ideas, but also is very open to great new ideas all the time.
That oneer is a great example of great new ideas, right? Because we're talking about the oneer in the hallway, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So explain to people how this worked, because ultimately, it used to be if you wanted to shoot 1,600 frames a second, you're going to be putting an entire maga film and pumping a bunch of light and shooting it on film at 1,600 frames a second. You go through a whole maga film. So for the people who know this sequence, it's truly iconic, working with Heidi Moneymaker and the stunt team to choreograph this long one shot that not only keeps, hides a few cuts here and there, but basically keeps the camera in one shot for the whole thing, while also modulating the frame rate through the course of the action, and making dynamic camera moves with a small enough camera to be able to make these dynamic camera moves, but a big enough camera to be able to shoot 1,600 frames a second or something like that. So this is really absolutely cutting edge technology, stunt choreography, and cinematography all rolled into one oneer.
Yeah.
Is that right? And was that
That was Guy. I mean, that was Guy and his
Guy,
team, and
whatever.
they worked on it for almost a year. It was so complicated. But
Wow.
you want to go and talk about it, Guy?
Yeah, talk about that, Guy.
Yeah, it's the Oneer is probably it's a beautiful example of how all the pieces work together, right?
Mhm.
It's not the singular success of any one component. It's not it's not just the visual effects. It's not just the cinematography. It's not just the stunts. It's all these people have come up with these brilliant ideas, and then they all have to work together for the entire period. I mean, even before we took it on, Steph and the stunt team and James are sitting there trying to figure out what that long 2.5 minute beat of action is, but then also how they're going to break it up into manageable logistical chunks that they can actually shoot, because there's no way you could shoot that thing in one long take. There's stunts that are re-rigged mid-stunt, and they shot it twice so that they could have the different stunt rigs to do the action that they want. And just planning all that takes a lot of effort. To Steph's credit, they identified how hard it was going to be for the visual effects team early on, so they engaged with us. The second it came off the camera, they're already starting to show us stuff, get it back to us so we can start planning. There's the it's such an interesting it's such an interesting mess, because you had this huge complex. It's shot as 18 shots over 3 days, and you're trying to make it look like it was all shot at the same time. And on top of that, it's shot at 200 frames a second. On top of that, it's shot to a very specific song, so all the choreography has to finish by a certain time. So anytime you want to add a beat, you have to steal a beat from somewhere, because you have 2.5 minutes to get out of this thing. And it takes a lot of planning up front. It takes a lot of planning once it gets in the visual effects house, and then it takes a lot of just washing. It's like polishing stones in a tumbler for 6 months or something. It just takes a lot of time and effort to make sure that all those pieces come together in a way that makes sense. We're lucky enough that technology's advanced to the point where we can build really accurate digi-doubles for a lot of the performance in the frame. That allows us to basically match exactly the intent of what was done by the stunt team, by the performer. But then where there's a hitch in the camera across the cut, we can switch over to a digi-double across that hitch so that it becomes invisible. It was fun. It was fun. To give you an idea, the animation supervisor, Mike Cousins, we were probably working on it for close to 8 months before we really started rendering stuff, because it just took that long to figure out how to blend that choreography back together.
Oh my gosh. Well, it's incredible. I mean, I remember at the premiere, people lost their minds. That just like that moment was so special. So I think, okay, I'm gonna let's see here. Let me ask you this. Are there any Easter eggs, visual effects Easter eggs that you'd like to tell us about?
Well, there's an anecdote actually about the oneer, but I don't know if you're gonna like that one, Chris.
Oh
It's
boy.
we played we worked the oneer in chunks, right? So we cut it in chunks, and then we were finaling chunks one at a time. And then there was, I think we were finding 300 shots at a time, towards the end. It was really intense. So we had like long sessions with James. And then we final shots, and then they go into what we call QC and everything. So we final one chunk of the oneer, and then it goes to our quality control. And then they call me and I said, Steph, you gotta watch this. And I go into the screening room and watch it, and in the background there's a digi-double version of you that was not rendered fully, and it was literally you without your clothes.
Yeah, boxers
in gray, on. As a gray man. And I was like, oh my God, good thing we caught that, because that would have been embarrassing.
Oh my God. Wow. Oh, I'm glad that
it was
didn't make
just
it to
in
the
the
final.
background, but we were just so focused on what was going on with, I think, Gamora in the foreground or something. It was like, we looked at it and we're like, my God, how did we not see this?
Oh my God. I want to see. I wish that still existed so I could see what
I'm sure it exists somewhere.
Now, so, and is there a piece of advice that someone gave you that you put into practice in your work? Like something you got as a piece of advice that you feel like is something that you put into practice that you could potentially give to other people who are perhaps inspired by this to want to grow up to play in the movies and perhaps go into visual effects?
Anybody has an idea of a good advice you ever received? It's a hard
It's a
question.
tricky one.
Yeah, it is a hard, but it's a good question.
I'm not sure it's a good question.
I think so,
it's a
because
terrible question.
sometimes I think the advice I got from James actually when we were shooting The Oneer, it was like because I was nervous when we were shooting The Oneer. It's a very complicated one, and he kept saying, just chill, Steph, it's gonna be okay. And that's actually, even James has very much evolved throughout the years. I mean, you know him very closely, Chris,
Yeah.
and he's much more chill than he used to be.
Yeah.
And it's that confidence. And I think he was trying to mentor me in that way, trying to keep me chill too, you know. So because we always figure out a way to make it happen, and we have, these great people around the world that help us in making these things happen. So it was like, just it's gonna be okay, you know. So that's the advice from James I will take.
Just chill. It's going to be okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great. I love it. Well, you guys have truly contributed to this truth that you write one movie, you shoot another movie, and then you edit another movie. It's like I'm learning more and more. I've been as an actor for now 25 plus years. I always assumed the hard work happened the minute I stood on the X, and when they yelled cut and wrap, that it was done. I didn't know what I didn't know. And as I'm moving forward into being more part of the creative team and producing, I'm realizing all of the work that's done behind the scenes and the thousands of names and the souls and the families and all of those who are affected to make these movies. They all contribute so greatly. And yes, the post-production process, especially in these big spectacle movies, that is really where the movie is fine-tuned and made. And so you guys have done such an extraordinary job. I'm here because I believe that you deserve to win the awards that you're nominated for, because if doing what you did doesn't win an award, then there's something wrong with the system. You did something extraordinary that's never been done before. You made animals real. You made fake animals with grotesque implants, lovable and cuddly, and you moved people to tears with animated characters and created incredible set pieces, wildly imaginative alter worlds, massive space crafts, and it's such a spectacle. And for those of you who haven't recently watched Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, watch it again just with the VFX in mind, and you will be blown away. It's truly a masterclass in what's possible and what VFX is capable of doing. So I just want to say thank you so much. And I'll end it with this question. Does it ever get really weird watching me act opposite nothing? Do you ever just like stop and just make fun of me? I have to know. Is it something where you're like, look at this guy, look what he's doing, as I'm having like a conversation or a fight or something with nothing? Because that feels really embarrassing in the moment. I want to know if it's as embarrassing as it feels.
No, for us, it's great. You really believe in it, and we believe in it even if there is nothing in front, which is the magic. And I think when, as Steph started with, like when we add on top of your performance, it can only be better. But I think if your performance was not good in the first place, and if you didn't truly believe that, even if you shoot in front of nothing, that if you didn't truly believe, it just wouldn't work. Rocket Raccoon can be as good as possible. I think he needs to interact with you in order to work, and the eyeline needs to be correct. So that's why all of these little markers are very useful.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, guys, it's been a real pleasure talking with each of you. Congratulations. Good luck moving forward. You represent our film so well, and I look forward to working with you all again and seeing you. And good luck. I really am pulling for you. I'm in the Academy, and I know you got my book.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so much, Grace.
Bye, guys. Nice talking to you.
Bye-bye. Bye, everybody.